Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 Memorial DFS Tactics show. I am broadcasting through a thunderstorm, so if you see any occasional flashes of light or rumbles, such as life in the Midwest. So I'm going to try to get through as much as I can, hoping that the stream doesn't cut out. But exciting show. We'll see how much we can get through, so let's get through it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there. It's going to make you a much better gambler, a much smarter DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the descriptions of all three streaming service videos, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards and any interesting research that I do throughout the week for the golf and baseball content that I provide. I will have my betting card out a little bit after the show. So just give me a follow at the links in the descriptions if you want to be a part of that research. And then finally, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. Who are you thinking about using in DFS this week? Who are your top pivots, fades, 6K plays, all the good stuff. So let's figure out our tactics and navigate through the slate for the 2022 Memorial. And we start with the mixed condition model that I built for the week. And let's go through that here fairly quickly. We talked about all week how Jack has toughened up Muirfield over the past couple of years, that he didn't like it when it got down to 16, 18 or so under. So really toughened it up. We put 10% in strokes gained total difficult rounds for the last 36 rounds. 5% on long courses. Could put more here, but you'll see how much percentage I used in other things. So I only had 5% left here. 10% in Jack Nicklaus designed courses. And the reason being, when I looked back and researched more yesterday, the players that generally do well on Jack Nicklaus designs, the Honda, the Canadian Open in Glen Abbey when it was at Glen Abbey 2015 to 19, and then 2013 as well. The Memorial, the one round at the Amex. Most of the players that have won this championship or played well have done well at all of those other events, being Jack Nicklaus designs. So that's why I put 10% here and only 5 in the long, as opposed to the other way around. I feel pretty darn confident that Jack Nicklaus designs is going to be a pretty big factor. Most of the champions going back to 2012 had played very well at the Honda that same year. So felt pretty good about putting a full 10% in Jack Nicklaus designs. And then we get to the usual 15% in strokes gained approach we talked all week about. There were two umbrella metrics that really play here at Muirfield. One is strokes gained approach. It's also the statistic that I just gravitate toward. And then strokes gained around the green, and I combined that with difficult. Again, knowing Jack's place, Muirfield's generally difficult, we see how important the around the green metrics, or we saw how important the around the green metrics were this week. So full 15% in this. I normally don't do much with around the green, but it was absolutely warranted this week. 5% in both greens and scrambling in difficult rounds. So you can see I'm really, really leaning into the difficult narrative, thinking that at least 3, if not all 4 rounds will be difficult at Muirfield this week. So we talked about how greens are probably going to be the most important, greens and fairways, driving distance. So I put 5% in greens, 5% in scrambling. And then finally, when we looked and dove really deep into the data, we found that the par 3s of the length of 175 to 200 were most prevalent. The par 5s in general, so no specific length, and then the heavy emphasis on the par 4s 450 to 500. I believe this is going to be the biggest factor this week, other than maybe strokes gained approach. So 15% here, 10% split between the par 5s and the par 3s. So when I ran the data model, my results come out as follows. Rory is number 1, Shane Lowry number 2, Aaron Wise, number 3, and I'm not terribly confident about that. It's just analytically he's number 3. Fitzpatrick 4th, Colin Morikawa 5th, Jordan Spieth, Xander, Mito, Patrick Cantley, and Corey Connors round out the top 10. Most notably, the big name that is missing in the top 10 is Jon Rahm. He's 12th. For whatever reason, the model didn't like him. The strokes gained around the green, difficult to par, have not been good. The par 3s of the length have not been good. And then he has not been very good scrambling, which, ties into the around the green. Now, part of that is probably due to the putter being a little bulky. So, scrambling is going to be a lot higher when you start making putts. I think Jon Rahm is higher than 12th. I don't think Aaron Wise is 3rd. This is just pure analytics. But as I see continuous flashes of light and more frequent, let's try to get through as much as we can. So let's turn to the salary board. Let me pull up the projected ownerships per Fantasy National and make sure I keep chat up as well. All right, so you have 5 players in the 10Ks: Jon Rahm, Rory, Patrick Cantley, Colin Morikawa, and Xander. All 5 of these guys are getting used. The one player that's actually the least owned in the 10Ks is the defending champ, defending champ Patrick Cantley. He is, I don't understand why he's only at 11.5%. Now, you do have the number 2, 3, and 5, second, third, and 5th projected owned players here. Second most projected owned player, Xander. I like Xander this week. I don't know. It's a gut feeling. I think Xander's primed to break out, finally get a win in a solo event, first time in a long time, and especially at a big event like the Memorial. You see here no bad statistics in the metrics that I think are going to play well this week. I like Xander quite a bit, but he is the second most projected owned player. Rory is the third most projected owned player. I like Rory, number 1 in the rankings. Seeing him at the percent he is at 16.5, and the price kind of worries me a little bit. And then you have Rahm and Morikawa in there as well. So if you're asking me to go through the 10Ks in rank, I'm going to have to put Patrick Cantley number 1 because he is the least owned in the area. Still getting used, so he's not a pivot, but still the least owned in the 10Ks. Top 10 in my model. Defending champ. He's playing okay. Like, the irons haven't been great lately. He's a much better iron player than this. Like, Cantley's number 1, all things considered, price, ownership, all that stuff for me. Then probably Rory. I think probably Xander 3rd, Rahm 4th, and Colin Morikawa 5th for the 10Ks. So let's move into the 9s. In the 9s, you have the most projected owned player, 4th, and so on. Quite a bit here. So it looks like your fellow contestants are going a 10K, a 9K, and then working their way down. Most projected owned player, I have to agree, there's no way I'm going to be able to avoid him. It's Shane Lowry. What's there to really be, what's there to say? I mean, he has one statistic, one metric outside the top 15 of the ones that I think are going to play this week, and that's strokes gained around the green. He's still in the upper third of the field. Love Shane Lowry this week. It's a shame to see him at such high project ownership, but good plays are good plays. He's at 19%. I'm not going to be able to get away from him. Let's see. You also have Matt Fitzpatrick right above him at 15%. I love Matt Fitzpatrick this week. You can see 4th in my rankings. Very good at scrambling. Very good when it's just very good when it's difficult. Very good on Jack Nicklaus courses. I love Matt Fitzpatrick this week. There are 3 players that just aren't getting used as much, I should say, because no one's really a pivot yet. You've got Will Zalatoris at 11.5%. You have Victor at 12.5% and Sungjae at 12.5%. I'm a little gun shy on Will Zalatoris, especially the poor performance last week. Victor, I said I was a little cautious last week, and he goes out and plays extremely well. But to me, I kind of like Hideki in the 9Ks. Former champion here in 2014, has always played the Memorial pretty darn well. Seeing him at a little under 14%, I don't know. I feel like Hideki's he's getting enough love, but I would have figured he'd have been in the 16 to 17% projected owned percentage. So I don't know. I really like Hideki. Spieth, I really like too. Spieth is sitting at 14%, right there with Hideki. So you got Will Zalatoris, Victor Hovland. I said Sungjae earlier. I apologize. He's at 89, not 9,000. But the two lower projected owned players here in the 9Ks, you got Will Zalatoris, 11.5, Victor Hovland, 12.5. Okay. Like 9Ks are probably where I'm going to be coming to quite a bit. I have no problem starting a team with Spieth or maybe going, I don't know, like a Xander, Hideki, Lowry, Fitzpatrick, Lowry, because I think there are quite a few good plays in the low sevens and a spicy 6, we'll say. But there's a look at the 9Ks very quickly. Shane Lowry, your most projected owned player. Matt Fitzpatrick, about 4th. Two very good plays, ones that I'm not going to be getting away from. I like Hideki and I like Spieth. Moving into the 8Ks, Sungjae, Cameron Young, Max Homa, Davis Riley, Berger, Connors, Neiman, Abraham Answer, Keegan Bradley, Mito, and Seamus Power. This is where you're starting to get into some pure pivot territory. Daniel Berger is at 6.5%. P, how you doing? Thanks for jumping in chat. And I gotta admit, man, you crack me up on Twitter. I love some of the stuff you're out there with. But thanks for jumping in chat. Hope your week has went well. Who are you looking forward to using and not using, and who are your plays this week in DFS? But coming back to the 8Ks here, let's see. You've got Daniel Berger, 6.5%. If you believe last week was enough to prove his health, then jump aboard. He's generally pretty good at Jack Nicklaus courses and when it's difficult. I'm going to be cautious, like I was with Victor Hovland. I'm going to be cautious with Daniel Berger this week. I will have some use of him because I did not use him at all last week, wanting to see his health. Now that he is healthy-ish, I would think, and made a cut, I'm going to be using a little bit of Berger, but going to be still a little gun-shy, knowing that the wrist, the back can always flare up. He's at 6.5%, and then another pivot is Seamus Power at 7%. I like Seamus Power. I mean, his irons have not been good lately, but he is very good when it's difficult. He is very good at the length of the par fours. He's very good around the green, which speaks to his scrambling when it's difficult. Really like Seamus Power this week, and sitting at 7%, yeah. I'll be using Seamus Power more than I would have normally thought given the 7% projected ownership. But the real pivot in the area, and I can't really disagree even though he starred, is Abraham Answer. He is sitting at less than 3%. Now he does play Nicklaus courses well, and he's pretty good when it's difficult, but he has just not been playing well lately. Like strokes gained approach, not the highest. He's not very good around the green when it's difficult. Now scrambling in general is pretty good, but around the green not so much. So that's telling me that's a lot in putting. That's very fickle. So if the putter goes wayward, this is going to be a really bad tournament for Abraham Answer, I think. There's just enough concern here that I have to agree with the Fantasy National members, the analytic community. I'm just nowhere near Abraham Answer this week. Elsewhere in the 8Ks, you've got Cameron Young at 16%. Love Cameron Young. Probably going to have to try to limit my exposure to him. 16% is just a whole lot. Neiman at 15%. Okay. I can fade Neiman a little bit more comfortably than Cameron Young. I'm quite high on Cameron Young this week. And then you got Mito at 16.5%. That's quite a bit. I mean, the metrics love him. 8th in my model. It showed a lot of internal fortitude to come back from the PGA Championship, played well last week. A win is coming for Mito. I don't know if it's the Memorial. but at 17%, oof, that is rough. That's hard to accept, at least for me. Because if you're going Mito and Shane Lowry, I mean, you're setting yourself up for a 4v4, and then you got to fill out the rest of your team. So that's pretty difficult. Like, I like Seamus Power enough at the same price to use Seamus. I think Mito's a better play, but I like Seamus enough at the same price that I'll use Seamus. I like Keegan Bradley. We didn't really talk about Davis Riley. He is sitting at 10%. I'm just off of Davis Riley. I understand he had a fantastic week last week. Very good on par fives. Very good when it's difficult. Greens good. I don't know. This is just one of my, I guess, gut feelings that I am not on Davis Riley this week. So there is a quick look at the 8Ks. I know I'm rushing through this. Again, I just see the flashes of light and more frequently, so I'm trying to get through this for you all. Moving into the high sevens, you've got a couple of players that are getting, 3 players that are getting a lot of use. So you have Patrick Reed at 13.5%. And I kind of like Patrick Reed this week. He loves Memorial. He loves when it's difficult. He's pretty good on Jack Nicklaus courses. Now, the irons are really scary, absolutely. But he showed something last week. He showed a sign of life. So you come into a course where he likes to play. It's generally difficult. It enhances his game. He is a scrambler. He's a around the green player. Don't sleep on Patrick Reed. It seems like a lot of people aren't at 13.5%. Chris Kirk, 14.5%. Again, just a good play. Irons are clicking. He's very good around the green. Very good when it's difficult. Good play. I don't know if I like enough around his price to be able to get away from Chris Kirk. Like, I like Kuchar at 7,800, but I don't like Desham. Obviously, I don't like Adam Scott at the same price. I do like Siwoo. We'll get to him real quick after the other player that I want to highlight here, Aaron Wise. And I mentioned that I didn't think he was third in overall when I was going through my rankings. I still don't think he is third. A good friend of mine had a very comical and probably true joke that my computer just has a formula that does not allow Aaron Wise to go below 10th or something. My model always rates Aaron Wise out very well. The metrics love him. Top 25 in irons. Number 7 on the length of par 4s. Good on Jack Nicklaus courses. Good when it's difficult. I just don't think he's third. And to see him at 14%, I can pump the brakes on the ownership on him, especially since I'm really, really high on Alex Noren and Siwoo Kim. So let's talk about some of the pivots. I mean, pure pivots in this area. Bryson, if you're willing to use him, it's at 4%. I'm nowhere near Bryson. It's like Daniel Berger, just prove health. And I'm much higher on Berger just because he proved last week that he can play. He can make it through 4 rounds, made the cut, all that stuff. Nowhere near Bryson. You've got Billy Horschel at 5%. I kind of like Billy Horschel this week. Terrible at the par 5s, and the irons haven't been good, but he can scramble. He's good around the green, and he can scramble, a lot of that being with a putter. Now, bent's not his best surface, absolutely, but I don't mind Billy Horschel. Seeing him at 5%, I'm kind of excited. Him and Seamus Power both. Kind of excited. Matt Kuchar, just a good play. He's at 10%, but a good play. He loves Memorial. He just likes playing Memorial. He's number 1 around the green when it's difficult. But the 2 players that I'm really excited to use this week, Siwoo Kim, sitting at 10%. Siwoo, to me, I think is a sleeper. Number 10 and around the green when it's difficult. He plays Jack Nicklaus courses well enough. He's very good at par 5s, which you have to take advantage of here at Memorial. And he's very, very good at the par 3s of the length here at Memorial. And his Memorial performance hasn't been bad. We talked about it in the Data Dive show in the I don't know what I'm trying to type here. We talked about it in the Data Dive show with the strokes gained total, the early look file, I call it. I mean, look at these numbers here at the Memorial. I mean, he made the cut back in 16, but ever since 2018, it's steadily getting better. 2019 was still a make cut, but top 30 and then a middling 41st. top 20, top 10. Getting better. I like Siwoo this week. Really like Siwoo, and I am all over Alex Noren. Alex Noren is sitting at 10.5%. I think that's way too low. Guy just he plays Memorial well. He plays all Jack Nicklaus courses well. You see the bent green putting performance. He played the Memorial darn well. He missed the cut in 20, but middling finish in 19, top 15 last year. And then, other Jack Nicklaus courses, very good. He's 16th. Good at the par 4s, good at the par 3s at the link, just like Siwoo. Good, very good with the irons lately. There's a lot to like with Alex Noren. I think 10.5 is way too low. If Alex Noren is indeed at 10.5, I will punch that ticket all day long, put him in the lineup. So there's a quick look at the high sevens. Let's move to the low sevens, and this is the area of the price board that everybody's ignoring. Everybody's ignoring. And this is why I am confident to use a Xander Fitzpatrick Lowry, because I feel like there's a couple of players in here that are quite usable, and excited to use. The one player that is getting any kind of love in the low sevens, let's see, you've got Ricky at 8.5. That's the one player I really want to highlight. We've talked about it all week. 4 top 15s in his past 5 years. The guy likes Muirfield. There's not much else to say. He likes Muirfield. And the analytics back it up. Number 15, strokes gained around the green when it's difficult. Now, some of these other metrics have not been good. He's not been good on long courses in the past calendar year. He's not been good at hitting greens when it's difficult. But if you're able to scramble, if you're able to get around the green here at Muirfield, his irons are getting better, good at par 5s. I like Ricky this week. I like Ricky, and I might have to eat crow next week, but I think Ricky's going to be a good play. I like CT Pan, but I really want to highlight Denny McCarthy as well. Yes, the irons are very, very scary, but we've talked tonight. We talked all week. Around the green is going to be a big factor. Part of scrambling is being able to make putts. Denny McCarthy is probably the best putter on tour. He's 30th, and around the green when it's difficult, he is 2nd. Scrambling when it's difficult. He's not terrible when it's long. Very, very good at the length of the par 4s here. He's got enough to be concerned. If you want to stay away, go ahead. I really like Denny McCarthy this week. I think 42nd is a bit too low on him. I'm really playing into the scrambling, the around the green, being able to make putts, to save scores. His irons are going to have to be a lot better than that, than 88th, what they've been recently. But I like Denny McCarthy this week. So in the low sevens, I'm going to highlight Ricky. I'm going to highlight Denny McCarthy. I don't mind CT Pan. Cameron Tringale came back to bite me a couple weeks ago. He rates out okay. Even Brian Harmon, even after his atrocious week last week, in which a lot of people were using him, everybody seems to be off of him. The irons are there. I don't know much else, but the irons are there. So really wanted to highlight those 2 to 3 low sevens, because everybody in here is getting completely ignored. So let's move into the sixes just really quickly. You've got 2 players actually getting some love that are higher than Ricky at the 8.5% that Ricky is. You've got Brendan Steele at 12%. Makes a lot of sense. He has played the Memorial very, very well down here at 6,600. Played it very, very well. Very good on Jack Nicklaus courses. Pretty good when it's difficult. There's a lot to like here with Brendan Steele. I can't disagree with the 12%. And then Lucas Glover is at 9%. Another player who has played the Memorial extremely well. I believe he's 5 for 5 or 4 for 4, making the cut the past 5 years. The irons are extremely hot right now. Par 5 is very good on Jack Nicklaus courses. I understand those 2 absolutely. If you're using them, you need to find some uniqueness, because if you're coming into the 6Ks thinking you're going to be unique using Brendan Steele and Lucas Glover, you're incorrect, because that's where your fellow contestants are going in the 6Ks. So let me highlight a couple of players here for you all that I don't mind going to in the 6Ks. First one I want to highlight for you all is Kevin Streelman. I talked about him throughout the week. He does not get enough love for how well he plays difficult courses. Top 20 in difficult courses in the past calendar year. Number 10 or top 10 in strokes gained around the green when it's difficult. Top 20 in scrambling when it's difficult. I like Kevin Streelman. Now, he didn't make the cut last week when it was difficult. I get it. The irons are not good. They're going to have to be better, just like Denny McCarthy just a bit ago. Par 5s have not been good, but he's great at the par 3s. I like Kevin Streelman sitting at, there he is, 7.5%. I mean, he's about 1.5% less than Lucas Glover. He is almost 4.5% less than Brendan Steele. Really like Kevin Streelman this week. And then it wouldn't be calls if we didn't go real bold. It worked out last week. I'm jumping back on the bandwagon. Take a look at Luke Donald. There you go, P. Back-to-back weeks. Take a look at Luke Donald. Number 7 in strokes gained approach in this field. Big Chicago Bears. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I like quite a bit of the Chicago teams. The Bears is not one of them. But take a look at Luke Donald. Number 7 in strokes gained approach. Number 3, strokes gained around the green when it's difficult. 20th in scrambling when it's difficult. And Luke Donald made the cut last week. He had a good tournament last week at 6,000 in a loaded field, and he is sitting literally at 1.5%. Luke, I don't understand why Luke Donald isn't getting some love here. At 6,000, you can squeeze in a whole lot of, upper tier players. You're getting a lot of uniqueness here. Again, it's all based on the irons and the difficulty. And Luke Donald played extremely well last week. So, I mean, I'll plant the flag again, and I might have to eat crow next week. But, one of the better decisions, one of the better calls that I made last week was Luke Donald at 6,000, and he played well. So I'm going to go right back to Luke Donald again this week at 6,000, the literal minimum. There is a look at the price board. I do not have Windfinder up. The basic summary is Thursday looks fine, maybe a bit gusty in the afternoon, up to maybe 12 to 13 miles an hour. Friday afternoon looks to be the worst at gusts of maybe up to 20, but they're supposedly getting some rain in the forecast tonight. Probably this same storm that's hitting where I am right now. But honestly, wind doesn't look to be much of a factor this week. So no AM/PM splits to really hone in on. So that is a quick look at the price board. And I know I'm going through it quickly. I apologize. But the said storm is here for me. So let's move to Microsoft Excel. And we'll cover some tiers contests first. Speaking of storms, P, as a fellow Midwesterner, you can appreciate the weather patterns around here. All right, so let's talk about tiers. Again, I am not very well tuned into the tiers contest. I can only go by the assumed projected ownerships that are in Classic. Tiers just aren't my thing, but for those who play in tiers, Tier 1 is John Rahm, Rory, and Patrick Cantlay. I think Rahm's probably going to be the biggest play. If this projected ownership is indeed true, I'm going to go Patrick Cantlay. I can't imagine that it's going to be, but if it is, I'm going Patrick Cantlay. That's tough. Like originally, I thought I was going to use Rory, but I think it might just be Patrick Cantlay, period. Guy loves Memorial. I mean, so does John Rahm, but John Rahm's going to be extremely chalky in tiers, I would think. So I'm going to go Cantlay. Tier 2, Colin Morikawa, Xander, Cam Smith, Jordan Spieth, and Victor Hovland. For me, it's between Spieth and Xander. And like Cam Smith has not performed well here at Memorial. Morikawa's fine. I think he's going to be chalky. Like I don't know if Spieth's going to be all that highly used, but I'm going to go Xander. He's probably going to be chalky. It's a gut feeling that I think Xander is going to have a good tournament. Yeah, I live 2 blocks from Lake Michigan. Yeah. Oh yeah, gnarly weather. That's a good word for it too. Gnarly. I like it. yeah, it's weather patterns here are great. Tier 3, we have Will Zalatoris, Hideki, Matt Fitzpatrick, Shane Lowry, and Sungjae. To me, it's between Fitzpatrick and Shane Lowry. Choose one. I think they're both good plays. I'm going to choose Lowry. I think both of these are good plays, and I think it's pretty clearly between these two in Tier 3. Tier 4, Cameron Young, Max Homa, Davis Riley, Daniel Berger, Corey Connors, Joaquin Neiman, and Keegan Bradley. Again, another tier that it's kind of between two players for me. It is Cameron Young and Daniel Berger. I'm going to go Cameron Young. I'm really high on him. He's probably more chalky than Daniel Berger. But if you believe in the health of Berger from last week, then go Berger. But I'm going to go Cameron Young and try to find my uniqueness, either hoping in Patrick Cantley or here in Tier 5 and Tier 6. So Tier 5, Abraham Answer, Mito, Seamus Power, Billy Horschel, Patrick Reed, Matt Kuchar, and Adam Scott. This is where I'm going to try to hit my uniqueness. Matt Kuchar loves Memorial. He's always played well as a former champion here. But I'm going to go Seamus Power. Again, going on the assumption of the Classic ownership, I think Seamus Power is going to have a decent tournament, and he's going to gain you some leverage in a tiers lineup. Tier 6, Chris Kirk, Siwoo, Jason Day, Alex Noren, Mark Leishman, and Gary Woodland. Sorry, I skipped through that. So Kirk, Siwoo, Jason Day, Aaron Wise, that's who I forgot. Aaron Wise, Alex Noren, Mark Leishman, and Gary Woodland. I think the best play overall is Aaron Wise. I'm going to go Alex Noren. A lot less projected ownership. I am really high on Alex Noren this week. I'll go Alex Noren. I won't fault you if you take Aaron Wise. He's a good play, and I really like Siwoo as well. So there's a look at the tiers, contests, and lineups that I would do. Let's start making some classic lineups here. If we're going to start making some chalk, well, you got to use the chalkiest of chalky options. That would be Mr. Xander Schauffele. So we'll start at Xander Schauffele, and then you got to go Shane Lowry. Those two are the chalky of chalky. So if that's the case, if they're trying to build a balanced team or not go into the 6Ks, it's going to be really, really difficult because they would have to have 4 players at and around 7,700. It's going to be really tough to do. The lowest it looks like they would be going is Aaron Wise. And then you'd have to come up to probably a Chris Kirk, Patrick Reed. Oh, gosh. Patrick Reed. And that still leaves you at 77, which is an Adam Scott not getting a whole lot of love. Maybe a Siwoo, maybe an Alex Noren. It's going to be really tough for them to work that through. Let me know in chat if we're still going. I just got a little notification there, so let me know if we're still going. I'm hoping so. But if this is their boundary, going Xander, Shane Lowry, Brendan Steele. Thanks, P. If this is their boundary, this gives them a whole lot more wiggle room at 8,000. So now, depending on which direction they want to go, they might go a Cameron Young here and try to squeeze in a whole lot further or a lot more higher price guys. Then they can go someone like Aaron Wise and Patrick Reed. 15.5% projected. 15.5% projected ownership, or right under it. This is ugly. This is chalky beyond chalk. Probably a good double up lineup, but I want no part of this in a GPP. So there is a look at a pretty chalky. I don't want to say it's stars and scrubs. It's pretty balanced. Just they're dipping into the 6Ks. Now, if they're going full on balanced build, they're probably going to start at, we'll say Jordan Spieth. He's at 14%, but we're going to go with Spieth, Fitzpatrick, and Lowry. And then they're going to bottom out at Aaron Wise. They can't even do this. They can use, I don't want to use the same names here. Maybe they're going a Alex Noren as well. And then they got 8,500 Max Homa and 82 Abraham Answer. He's not getting much love at all. Neiman maybe. Let's see. So I'm going to go $100 over, but you can get the feel or the gist of a balanced lineup here. They're probably going something like Fitzpatrick, Lowry, Neiman, Homa, that kind of steering of a shell of a lineup. So let's try to get some uniqueness in here. If we're wanting to go stars and scrubs, I mentioned I don't understand why Patrick Cantlay is at the ownership he's at. If he's indeed at 11.5%, fire up Patrick Cantlay. I love it. I mentioned I don't mind Jordan Spieth, Hideki. But if we're going to go pure stars and scrubs, I understand he is extremely chalky, but I'm going to try to go Cantlay, Schauffele, and get my uniqueness by combining both of those. And I already mentioned Uncle Luke, as P called him. Like, I'm all about Luke Donald again this week. I think it's a good play. Now, whether you're willing to go into a second 6K or not, that's up to you. But, I won't even go into another 6K. I'll go Ricky Fowler, low sevens. I'll go Ricky Fowler, great course history, and still leaves me $8,000 per player the last two. I mentioned how I like Seamus Power. If you prefer Mito, you can go Mito here. But for me, it's going to be Alex Noren, and that gives me all the way up to 8,400, which is Corey Connors. I like Neiman is fine. If I want to come up off of Noren, I can go something to the effect of maybe Seamus Power and Siwoo. That's less than 10% projected ownership, leaving $300 on the table. You can even move that $300 around a little bit if you want to come up off of Luke Donald or Ricky or whatnot. This is a stars and scrubs style team that I really, really like, all predicated by the fact that I am comfortable using Luke Donald. Now, if you're going to want to try to build a balanced team, it's going to be much, much tougher to do, but it can be done. At least some uniqueness. I'm going to start that team with Jordan Spieth. And then if you're going to try to go balanced, I would use Ricky, but let's use a different name here just for argument's sake. I like Denny McCarthy. So, Cindy McCarthy, apparently. I like Denny McCarthy. We talked about the scrambling, the putting. That gives you quite a bit of wiggle room around here. Let's see, if you like Hideki, the V fine is a bit chalky, but Hideki's fine. A little cautious on Victor Hovland. Cameron Young is very chalky, but good play. Let's try Cameron Young and see how balanced we can get. Yes, he is very chalky, but I think we'll be able to maneuver around this, especially with 8,200 per. I mentioned Seamus Power. I used him in the last team. You can use him. If you're comfortable using Abraham Answer. I'm personally not, but if you're comfortable with Abraham Answer. I like Daniel Berger. I'll have a little use of Daniel Berger this week. So we're back at the original 8,000. I mentioned I don't mind a Billy Horschel. And that leaves us at 81, which is Keegan or Mito, if you like Mito. It's right at 10%. You got $100 on the table. You can move some of this money around and maybe try to squeeze in a 10K. So there's a look at a balanced lineup that is much less chalky than the 15.5% starting Fitzpatrick and Lowry. So again, we're only at 40 minutes. I apologize. It looks like I have lost the stream once. So that's going to do it for tonight. Again, apologies. Can't control the weather. I wish I could, but I can't control the weather. If you need any help or last minute advice or questions with your teams, reach out to me on social media. Put it in the comments of this video. I'll get to it. I promise I'll get to it. Get your answer or get an answer to you in one way or another. But good luck with all your contests this week. P, thanks for jumping in chat like you always do. I appreciate all the support, you all tuning in, watching, and listening for all of the wagers that you have made this week at the Memorial, for any of the DFS contests you've entered this week at the Memorial, for this weekend and every weekend. May all your bets be profitable.